Welcome back. We talked about the science and the impact of rising sea levels. Now let's talk about the efforts and the obstacles to stopping it. Joining us for more on this topic are Dr. David Hastings, a marine geochemist at Eckerd College, Frank Alcock, a political science professor at New College, and our own Steve Newman, who just did that terrific report. And thank you for that, Steve. So we see what the problem is, and Steve did a terrific job in explaining it, but let's talk about the obstacles both scientifically and politically to solving this. Scientifically, does this get down to cutting carbon emissions, as we have often heard?
Right. The only way to stop the sea level rising is to stop CO2 and other greenhouse gases from coming out of the smokestacks and our tailpipes.
And that has become a real political hot potato. And we often hear, especially on the federal level, some members of Congress denying that there's anything that man can do about that, and President Obama, basically doing what he can without going through Congress and basically administrative movements, right, Frank?
Yes, so there's a couple of issues that I think it's helpful to sort out. On the mitigation side, or slowing down carbon emissions, the Environmental Protection Agency under the Obama administration has issued a clean power plan that this state will have to deal with. That's one issue. There's another issue with respect to understanding the risk associated with sea level rise, and I think the report was pretty wonderful. There's risk there. There can be some argument about the level of risk and what the best response is, and sort of a trade-off in terms of balancing economic interests with respect to the risks associated with sea level rise. But unfortunately, under the current governor, there's been a refusal to, and a willful, an intentional negligence, if you will, with respect to even acknowledging that risk is there. And so I think that hampers the state in terms of the best means of addressing the risk if you simply refuse that it exists in the first place.
Now, there was a very well-known example of the governor talking to some of the best scientific minds in the state about this problem a while back, and Doctor, you were one of them. We have some video to show everybody from your meeting with the governor, and let's take a look at that.
This will result in accelerating ice melt, which is already happening, and accelerating sea level rise.
We need strong leadership from your office and from you in particular, to take action.
Doctor, what impression did you get from the governor in terms of how serious he takes this?
I was disappointed, to say the least. The time was not well spent. He spent half of it introducing ourselves, and so we had another 15 minutes to talk about the science, and he didn't appear engaged. He really didn't appear interested. He didn't ask any questions at all, and he left a little bit early. He cut us off. So it seemed like it was, he didn't appear really engaged in the material. That what we wanted to tell him is that it's happening now. Humans are causing it. Scientists agree. We know this is going on. The most important thing is that we can fix it. This is a fixable problem to a large extent, and we need to do it now.
And the other thing I was going to add to that is that the story goes around that the governor has banned state employees from even mentioning the phrase climate change. But when it comes to fixing it, what opponents often say is fixing it will cost money and cost jobs. Does anybody want to take that?
Not necessarily. Let's just park some of that discussion on the mitigation side for another time. One of the things I think that's important to point out on the adaptation side, regardless of what we do, we're still going to see a certain amount of sea level rise that's already locked in. There are risks associated with that, and this is a matter of local policy at the county and the municipal level. And so regardless of the degree to which the state wants to acknowledge that this risk is there, it does not prevent Sarasota County, it does not prevent this region for putting in place some sensible discussions and dialogue. There's some very good examples on the southeast coast of Florida of a compact and counties coming together and doing some regional planning. And here in Punta Gorda has actually worked with the Charlotte Harbor Natural Estuary Program doing some scenario analysis. So in terms of action, what does it look like? I mean, it looks like just factoring this risk into your comprehensive management plans, your post-disaster redevelopment plans, your coastal setback lines. These are all county level issues.
And if I can hop in for a minute, you mentioned business and whether we're going to lose jobs. We will lose jobs if we don't hop in
Yes.
and start building photovoltaic plants. If we don't start doing this, all the jobs are shipped out to China making these solar panels. If we made them here in Florida, it'd be a tremendous business opportunity.
You should have watched our show a few weeks ago on that very topic. But Steve, let me ask you this, because you mentioned Miami Beach, and specifically it's Alton Road in Miami Beach. And I
Right.
know that because that used to be my commute home. Can you go anywhere right around here, if anybody is watching this right now, and actually see some examples of where sea rise is affecting the beaches or local areas?
I grew up here in Sarasota. So in the 60s, I was on City Island a lot. I was right down on where Fruitville Road hits the trail, down where it swamps all the time. It used to swamp a little bit. City Island used to swamp a little bit. It swamps a lot now. I've noticed anecdotally that, yes, I've seen a considerable amount of more flooding.
And we're working so hard here on the Suncoast in terms of growing the community. We did a show this week about developing Sarasota's waterfront. Unless we get a handle on this, all that eventually will become moot.
Right, right.
It's a problem, and then I think for the viewers, one of the things, you know, how will they notice? I don't think they're going to wake up one day and look out the window and suddenly, wow, the sea level's rise. No, but what some of the projections and scenario analysis tells us is that as we have a set of storms that roll through, your storm surges that are associated with 1 and 2 level category hurricanes, they're going to start to look like 3 and 4, and that's a major, major difference.
And we have less than a minute left, but you know, a number of you watch the political process, and we hear what's coming up in the upcoming legislative sessions, open carry of guns, and issues like that, and we're still dealing with redistricting. Do you have any handle on what priority this is in terms of the state legislature doing anything about this?
Nothing will happen for the next, I think under the Scott administration and this legislature, I'd be shocked if they even utter the words climate change. However, this issue is going to be with us for a long period of time, so I'm hopeful. I mean, this issue was, I think, dealt with, at least addressed, even under Republican administrations here in the state prior to this current one. I'm hopeful, regardless if it's a Republican or Democrat that gets in, we can return to a little bit of sensibility.
I'm actually quite hopeful. I see a huge shift in public opinion amongst both Democrats and Republicans. So I think the politicians are actually lagging the process tremendously.
Okay, and
so
we'll
I'm quite hopeful.
And gentlemen, thank you. We have to leave it there, and we'll be back in just a moment.